Is Inception's music secretly genius? Christopher Nolan's 2010 film Inception not only has a creative and memorable plot, but it also has an impressive soundtrack score by, of course, renowned composer Hans Zimmer. Today we're going to be talking about the music from Inception, specifically the track Time, and how the music cleverly mirrors the plot of the film in unique and clever ways. We're going to talk about the chords, the descending figures, the different layers and speeds, and how that ties into the plot. Now the chords are A minor, E minor, G major, D major, followed by A minor, C major 7th, G major, D major. It starts on A minor. It repeats the second phrase starting on A minor, and then that whole thing keeps repeating. So we keep returning to what seems like A minor. We start there, we return there. So upon first glance, it seems like we're in A minor. Oh, this piece is in A minor. It's obvious, but wait a second. If we look closer, A minor doesn't really make sense. A minor would be the minor 1, E minor would be the minor 5, which isn't too weird, but then G major, that would be the major 7th, making D major the major 4th, and so on. It just becomes really weird. That's not to get too music theory, not that I'm a music theory expert or anything, but if we paint those chords with the assumption that A minor is our tonic, our starting point, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What does make more sense is if we look at the middle of each phrase, G major. If we treat G major as the tonic, then everything starts to make a little bit more sense. As G major is the tonic, it goes to the major 5, D, then it goes to the minor 2nd, it's not that unusual, which is A minor. It goes to the major 4th with the 7th, then returns to G major, and then the 5 chord, the major 5. Things start to make a lot more sense cadence-wise and chord-wise if we understand that the G major is our home base, it's our tonic. But the fact that it's ambiguous like that, starting on the minor 2nd, that gives it some ambiguity. Are we in a minor kind of sad sound? Or are we in a major kind of happy sound? Where is home? Where is our starting point? Where do we belong? That ambiguity really lends itself to a lot of the themes and plot points of the movie, right? It's just like how in the film, many of the characters, especially the main character, Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, they're often unsure of themselves. Is this really home? Is this the real home? Is this my happy ending? Or is it kind of sad? Are we not there yet? They're often unsure where the dream ends and where real life begins. So that ambiguity that Zimmer built into the soundtrack really lends itself to that theme in the movie of ambiguity that the characters feel. Once those chords have been introduced in the piece, the second kind of idea that starts to happen is these 3 descending passing notes that are also on strings a little bit higher up. This descending motion really ties in to a couple things. It ties into the fact that the dream has several layers, that they're going deeper and deeper each time into a layer that's farther down in the dream. So it makes sense that Zimmer wrote in these descending figures. It would be just coincidence if it happened just once or twice, but it happens over and over and over again. It's repeated throughout the whole piece, just those descending 3 notes. So it ties into that theme of them going deeper and deeper into the dream, as well as the dream collapsing later on, right? Everything's coming down. But what I think is the most clever and interesting part is that towards the end of the track, not only are the chords playing underneath, big and slow and loud at this point, but at the very end of the piece, the brass comes in with 2 descending notes that kind of leap down for each chord. The interesting thing is, these 2 notes, they kind of fit with the chord that they're in, but not really perfectly. But if we look at the following chord, it's almost as if they fit better in the next chord. For example, our first chord is A minor, and the brass notes that we hear is a B down to an E. The E fits, but the B, okay, whatever. But if we look at the next chord, E minor. E minor is E, G, B. So it fits better in E minor than it does in A minor. Okay, that was just one time though. Well, look at the third chord. The same thing happens, right? The underneath chord is G major, but the brass descending leap down plays an A and then a D. Which, okay, D belongs in G, but what about A? Doesn't really belong. But it belongs in the next chord, D major. But what plays in the D major chord instead of A and D? We hear the brass do E and A. Again, A fits just fine in D, but the E and the A works a lot better in, you guessed it, the next chord, A minor. So this thing keeps happening. The chords that are nice and slow are kind of behind, and the fast descending brass notes, fast by comparison, those descending brass notes are already ahead. They've skipped on, they've already moved on to the next chord, and the strings and everything are behind. This ties in perfectly with the movie where one layer, everything's super slow and it's almost like time is frozen, and they're still falling off that bridge or whatever, and they're about to hit the water. But they're quote-unquote about to hit the water for like, I don't know, what seems like an hour of the movie. Whereas other layers of the dream, they're moving super fast. They're, by comparison, they're super fast. They're running around, they're getting things done. So different layers of the dream go at different speeds. Just like in the music, different layers of the music go at different speeds. Christopher Nolan, the director, reportedly had the composer Hans Zimmer write the score separately without ever having seen the film. So Zimmer only had his ideas and conversations and descriptions from the director to go off of when he was composing. This probably helped Zimmer rely on these types of connections to the plot and the characters and what they were feeling, what they were doing to help spark his creativity when he was composing. So we see that Zimmer took the time to make the music reflect the plot and the theme of the film, with the ambiguity of whether or not this is really home, is this really our happy ending, or are we a little bit unsure of our happy ending? He took that theme of constantly going down further and further and put it in the music. He took how some layers are fast and some layers are slow, and the fast layers have already moved on to the next phase while everyone else is still behind. He took all of those themes and ideas in the plot, put it in the music. And that is why the soundtrack to Inception is secretly genius.